restart this whole thing about what is Africa.
I like that. You said something about like basic facts. I know they might be numerous, but you know, for the enlightenment of our African listeners, one or two of those basic facts that are laid bare in the African Fact Book.
Yeah, for example, you know, Rumbi, we've got white people who've written books that black people are currently using in schools that teach that Africa has no history. That our history began when the white men came into the continent. And I was saying the other day, we've got European intellectuals, you know, pseudo-intellectuals, who have written books to say Africa has no history. And I quote, they say Africa has no history because the history of Africa is the history of the white man in Africa. Before that, it was darkness, and darkness is not a subject of history. You've got people writing things like that.
No.
Absolutely.
I'm shocked.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
You see, and so we are told that Zimbabwean history starts in 1890. Right?
But there were people, there's almost like saying, oh, you know, David Livingstone discovered the Victoria Falls.
Absolutely.
Christopher Columbus discovered
You've
America.
got it. You've got it. You've got it. And this is the campaign that the Africa Fact Book will be launching on Friday. We are going to have to start a campaign of starting the conversation about who we are as Africans, about our history, about our identity, where we are coming from, where we are and where we are going. And what we are saying is that this is a great country. This is a great people, a great continent, but the story has been mistold by those with tools to tell the story globally. And at the end of the day, you've got a continent with young people whose greatest ambition is to get a passport and leave.
It's quite sad when you put it like that.
Yeah.
It is quite sad when you put it like that.
Yeah. And then they get to London, they get to Chicago, Washington, or you know, Johannesburg, you know, and realize that, oh my goodness, you know, what have I done? But they've already landed, you see, and they can't come back. So it starts with the story that has been told. The story must be corrected. And this is what we are saying. Let's stop the process. Let's restart the conversation. Let's redefine what is Africa, who are Africans, where are we going? And I think we need that clarity. Let's correct the information being taught our young boys and girls in schools. Most of it is not education, Rumbi. It's miseducation. It's miseducation. And at the end of the day, you've got lots of people with degrees, that which they call educational or intellectual inflation. More people with degrees than with jobs because
because there's something wrong with the system.
Yeah, because the system is teaching you to cram that this white man invented the television. This white man created this and that. If you can cram and memorize and remember, then you'll be rewarded in the classroom. And at the end of the day, we've got people with 15 points, 20 points A level, 12 A's O level, but they are setting up DSTV as a profession. you not that there's anything wrong with DSTV, but I think
it's not commensurate.
If you've got 12 A's, we expect better than installing TVs. But that's what we're talking about. So the Africa Fact Book is titled, in the subtitle, Busting the Myths. We are tackling the myths about Africa.
And one of those myths being that, you know, Africa is barbaric or was barbaric, uneducated,
it has no history.
It has no history, needed taming,
yes,
as it were.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, that's why we're calling on the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority as a matter of priority for 2023. Rename the Victoria Falls, its local name, its indigenous name, because David Livingstone did not discover, you know. But then what I'm saying, Rumbi, is we are being constantly lied to that the white men discovered this and that. The reason why the Institute of African Knowledge is calling on the banning of the Students' Companion in schools is because the Students' Companion has got a section on discoverers. And in that section of discoveries, all the people listed there are white people.
From Vasco da Gama.
Yeah, all of them are white people. Yet, if you actually go to the facts, the black people of Africa and the diaspora have created more for the world and given more to the world that has been recognized. The fact book is a section called Section C, which are hundreds of pages detailing what black Africa, what the black man, the black woman has invented, discovered for the rest of the world, and has not been given the credit. You see, I mean, for example, we are told, I'm sorry to say, Ruby, this is Capitalk, and the Capitalk, another word for Capitalk for this evening is express talk or true talk. we're lied to. You know, that Thomas Edison, you know, invented electricity, when in fact Thomas Edison stole the inventions of his black co-worker, and then went to the office for intellectual property registration and registered it under his name, because at that time black people, because of slavery, could not register anything. But the facts are right to the extent that General Electric, the biggest electric manufacturing company in the United States of America, he has recognized that fact. He has funded the creation of a museum to recognize the actual people who created electricity, and they are black. And there is a museum now dedicated for this purpose in the United States of America, in New York. You see now, we want to hear that being taught in schools, because currently our schools are teaching our young kids that the lie that Christopher Columbus was a great man. They actually have a song. They've got a song. Christopher Columbus was a great man. Yet, the truth of the matter is, when Christopher Columbus was preparing to travel, navigate the world, he read a book by a writer who had traveled the world before him called Ibn Battuta from Morocco. That book became a world bestseller.
And he was a Moor, I imagine.
Yes. And Christopher Columbus read this book. There's a museum in Italy with that book. And Christopher Columbus was writing notes, learning from the African. What is navigation? What is GPS? What is a map? Learning it from Ibn Battuta's book. And then here in Africa, we are busy learning to our kids, Christopher Columbus was a great man. Excuse me?
How can he be a great man?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
You know.
So there seems to be quite a lot to undo, Ambassador. At what point do we start undoing this? Because I see that there are two segments coming up here. There are those who perhaps have gone past a certain age and are no longer in that curriculum and can no longer be taught or brought back, and those who are still within that age group.
Well, what I can assure you is, whichever age group you are, it's not too late. Let's start from where we can start. From where we are, let's start there. As a parent, start with changing what you're telling your children. You see, yeah, what you're changing. You know, do not tell your children that they don't have a history or the white man is better and things like that. We have to instill pride in ourselves. There is no continent, there's no people that has ever succeeded when they are not proud of themselves. And the biggest challenge for Africans in this century is to be proud of themselves. Be proud of your skin, be proud of your history, be proud of where you are, and everything else follows. You see, everything else follows, taking pride, ownership, and association with your where you're coming from, your origins, your identity. And as long as this is not resolved, as long as we don't take this, we are going nowhere. We are like an aeroplane on autopilot, just flying, but destination